Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining us in our webinar series today, where we'll be featuring Naval Sea Systems Command. I am Arvis Washington, the Deputy Director for the Department of Navy's Office of Small Business Programs. Welcome to our webinar series, where we will be hosting webinars on various topics throughout the summer. I would like to direct you to our website at www.secnav.navy.mil/small business, where you can find a wealth of information, including our Department of Navy Office of Small Business Programs operations plan. You can locate your small business professional and find information on how to do business with the Department of Navy and Marine Corps, including our long-range acquisition forecast. To learn more about upcoming events, I encourage you to connect with us on our social media platforms, including Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, and YouTube, where you can view previously recorded webinars if you missed them. I would also like to highlight our small business procurement event, Navy Gold Coast, which is going to be held August 31st through September 2nd virtually. You can connect with us either via our social media platforms or on our website for more information on how to get registered. And before we get started, I encourage you to join us for our upcoming webinars on Thursday, July 16th, where Mr. Carlton Hagens will be leading a webinar for the Marine Corps Installation and Logistics Command, and talk about improving understanding and interaction between the Marine Corps and the defense industry partners, as well as July 21st with Marine Corps Systems Command, where they'll be featuring conducting effective strategic outreach in this COVID-19 environment. We look forward to seeing you there. I'll turn it over now to Ms. Ann Bannister, the Small Business Director for Naval Sea Systems Command. Thank you, Ann, for joining us today, you and your team.
Oh, thank you, Arvi. And good day, everyone, and thank you for participating in today's webinar. I'm Ann Bannister, Navsea Small Business Director, and I'm pleased to present Navsea Fact Attack, answering the questions we receive most often from small business concerns. The Naval Sea Systems Command, better known as Navsea, is headquartered in Washington, D.C. at the Washington Navy Yard. Navsea is comprised of more than 80,000 civilian and military personnel in 34 activities located across the United States and Asia. Together, we build, buy, and maintain ships, submarines, and combat systems for the U.S. Navy. In FY19, Navsea awarded over $3.4 billion to small business concerns as primes, and they were instrumental in helping us meet our mission. Of that total, $2.7 billion was awarded by our 21 field activities. So today, I'm pleased to have with me 2 of our small business professionals from headquarters and 4 of our small business deputies representing our field activities, who are here to answer your most frequently asked questions. So let's get started. Question number 1 is for Ms. Kim Balone, who is from Navsea headquarters. So the question for Kim is, how can small businesses locate subcontracting opportunities with Navsea? Kim, over to you.
Thank you, Ann. All major Department of Defense prime contractors have a point of contact known as the Small Business Liaison Officer within their firm that will welcome subcontracting inquiries. I encourage you to investigate potential opportunities with these firms. Keep in mind that many have websites that, in addition to offering you information about their company to make sure that you're a good fit, because you want to make sure that your vision, that your goals are in alignment with theirs, a lot of times their website will be the point of entry to gain subcontracting opportunities. You can contact the small business professional of the command you are interested in to get a list of and/or small business liaison officer POCs for their prime contracts. My contact information is on the screen for Navsea headquarters, and I will be happy to email you our top 25 primes to include the name of their small business liaison officer, email, and phone number. Additionally, if you're interested in doing work with Navsea, there's a number of ways that you can do additional online research to identify the major prime contractors that do significant work where you may be a logical fit with the services that you provide. One great resource is FBO.gov, and it's a great place to start. It is a single posting site for all solicitations over $3,000. Additionally, USAspending.gov is another great source of online information. It was launched in December 2007 as a way for the government to become more transparent, and USAspending.gov also lists first-tier subcontractors. Additionally, the Small Business Administration has a subcontracting program that is called Subnet. The SBA subcontracting network system bridges the gap between businesses seeking small businesses and small businesses seeking contracting opportunities. It's a real-time program. I was just in it yesterday, and it's great. For example, I entered Washington, D.C., and particular NAICS codes, and then I could see real-time subcontracting opportunities. Additionally, if you're interested in subcontracting at Navsea, I would encourage you to attend outreach events. The Navy's flagship outreach events are held annually and include Sea, Air, and Space, which is held on the East Coast, and Gold Coast that RV mentioned a few minutes ago that is held on the West Coast. And, lastly, I would encourage those of you that are seeking subcontracting opportunities with Navsea, your local PTAC, Procurement Technical Assistant Center representative is another great resource. Back to you, Ann.
Okay, thanks, Kim. Subcontracting is a great way for small businesses to get experience working with Navsea. So I'm sure the audience appreciated your insight. Next question. Next up, we have Mr. Dan Duckwitz, also from Navsea headquarters. So Dan, the question that you receive most often is, how is Navsea accessing small businesses with experience implementing agile software development? Over to you, Dan.
Thank you, ma'am. We're lucky to have many partners in the small business space that have experience with agile software development. One requirement that I think is particularly interesting that's come up over the past year or so is Program Executive Office Integrated Warfare Systems, PEO IWS, has a requirement for software factories to support surface combatants. So this requirement will deal a lot with the Aegis system on surface combatant vessels and systems. The contracting office and the program office have had several industry days, a lot of back and forth with industry to shape the requirement, which is going to entail building teams to have agile software sprints to deliver microservices and hardened containers. And just recently, this requirement is now looking like it's going to go through the Marine Corps System Command's C5 consortium through the OTA. So I think this is a great opportunity for a small firm with experience in agile software development and especially containerization to find teammates and to get partnered up and to get to work helping support Navsea. Back to you, ma'am.
Oh, thanks, Dan. You know, this is a very hot topic and a great way for small businesses to highlight the innovative solutions to Navsea. So thanks for sharing that. Okay, so let's go to our field activity small business deputies. Mr. Dave Waltz is from Naval Undersea Warfare Center, Keyport, Washington. So Dave, how can a company support Navsea service contracts if they are not on the Seaport Multiple Award contract? And how can a company get on the Seaport Multiple Award contract? Over to you, Dave.
Thanks, Ann, and good morning, everybody. That's a great question. That's a question that I receive quite a bit. Navsea, we use Seaport Next Generation as our multiple award contract vehicle for all of our service contracts. And as you can see on the slide that's up there right now, engineering services 541330, that's where we do most of our obligations, and that is the NAICS code that you need for Seaport. So Seaport has a rolling admissions about every 2 years, and in fact, the next rolling admissions is coming up, I believe, in the fourth quarter of this fiscal year, and you'll be able to find, if you're interested in getting in the Seaport vehicle, you'll be able to find the solicitation in beta.sam, and then the award will be in FY21. Now, if you do not have a Seaport vehicle right now and you see opportunities in some of the long-range acquisition forecasts and you want to be a part of that, you do not need to have a Seaport Prime MAC contract to be a subcontractor. You could get in touch with myself or any of the other deputies for small businesses to find out who the current contract holder is, so you could start teaming. We also have a small business search tool that we identify those small businesses that have Seaport contracts, and I'd be happy, and I'm sure my other small business partners, deputy partners, would also share who some of those companies are, so you could start providing or start building teams to maybe go after some of those opportunities that are out there. But Seaport, that is the vehicle that we use. It is in our supplement, the Naval supplement for the FAR, as kind of our category management type of tool that we use. So if you have any other questions in regards to Seaport, some of the service opportunities that are out there at Keyport or any of the other warfare centers, you can contact myself. My information is there, or any of the other deputy for small businesses, and we'd love to talk to you about those opportunities. So thank you, and back to you, Ann.
Thanks, Dave. You are so right. We do field numerous questions on the Seaport MAC. So thanks for sharing that information. So up next, we have Ms. Alice Watson from the Southwest Regional Maintenance Center. The question for Alice is, how can a small business better market themselves to the Regional Maintenance Center? Over to you, Alice.
Good morning. There are a number of tips that I could provide on how to better market, but I think I'll just limit it to 3 in the interest of time. The first tip I have is to make sure that you do your homework. You can search for government agencies that would be a good fit for what your company provides. And one of the ways to do that is to search in beta.sam, which is formerly the FBO. You can enter your company's NAICS codes or keywords, and your search should provide agencies that have in the past purchased supplies or services similar to what your company offers. So by doing that, you can identify the area or the agency that you need to market to. So that'll save you some time and effort. Next thing I think would be good is for you to check the agency's long-range acquisition forecast, or the LRAF. SWRMAC LRAF is actually located with the Navsea LRAF, and that is on the Navsea. You can find that on the Navsea website. The next thing to do is to check the government agency small business page, and normally the contractor for NAICS will be listed, in addition to, in some cases, not in SWRMAC's case, but in some cases, the LRAF will also be located there. When contracting with, when contacting the small business professional by email, you want to make sure that you always provide your company's capability statement, and that your company's capability statement is up to date, include your company's NAICS codes, which is very important, and if possible, include any past government experience. Now, when speaking with a small business professional on the phone or via email, you're corresponding, be sure to ask about any upcoming outreach activities like industry days. SWRMAC does not have industry days, but what we do have is an event that occurs on the first Thursday of every month. And so the name of the event is called First Thursdays. And what it does is it provides contractors the ability to present their capabilities in front of an audience consisting of myself, contracting personnel, and the local PTAC, and more importantly, well, I won't say that, not more importantly, we're all important, but potential end users. These are people who would have a greater understanding of what it is you're trying to offer or supplies or services that you're offering. Because of the pandemic, however, our future First Thursdays will be virtual, which in some cases may actually work out, would actually be an advantage in terms of trying to, it would eliminate you all from having to access the base. So I think it would be a lot easier that way to have it virtually. So that's what we'll be doing from now forward. Our first Thursday for fiscal year 21 will probably take place sometime in November. So if you're interested in our First Thursdays, you can please reach out to me at the email that's on my slide. And I think that's all I have, Ann. Back to you.
Okay, Alice, thanks. I'm going to take a quick question for you, Alice, from the audience. What is the process for registering for capability briefing?
I'm sorry, so it was for the, you mean for the First Thursday?
Yes.
If you will reach out to me via email, there is a short questionnaire that I have. Basically, all it's asking is to identify your NAICS codes, to identify your small business category or subcategory rather, and whether or not you have base access. But then because we're doing it virtually now, that's no longer an issue. And then also the dates that you would be available for the First Thursday event.
Great, thank you. Thanks for sharing all that information. Small businesses are such important partners in ship maintenance. So thanks for sharing your insight on how they can better align themselves with marketing to the maintenance centers. Next up, we have Mr. Matt Burkett of Naval Surface Warfare Center in Crane. So the question for Matt is, why is it important for a small business to respond to requests for information and sources sought notices? Over to you, Matt.
Thank you, Ann. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, sorry. Thank you, Ann. Yeah, the reason it's so important for small businesses to respond to sources sought notices or requests for information is because that's one of the key market research tools that we use, especially at the warfare centers, to gauge small business capabilities. So as you can see on the, as our top NAICS code is the 541330, which is primarily the Seaport Next Gen vehicle where we're obligating those funds. That is a huge market research tool that we use to gauge industry, because the difficulty can be is, if we set something aside, how the government works. So I'm sure most of you know how the government works. We needed what we needed yesterday, so we're sometimes running a very tight schedules. And so if we decide to set something aside for small business without really gauging industry to see what the capabilities are or see what the interest is, there have been many times where we've set something aside and received no offers. So then, you know, the solicitation has sat for at least 30 days. We then have to pull it back and start to do some additional market research. So we try to do a lot of the market research up front, you know, via an RFI or a source of sought notice to gauge industry interest. Another big reason is the industry constantly changes. So we like to issue those to see who the new players are, in the industry. You know, maybe 5 years ago, the company didn't have a particular capability, which they now have this time around. So again, we use this. This is a very useful tool for us, and probably the biggest, most widely used market research tool that we have. So thank you, and back to you, Ann.
Okay, great. Hey, I have a quick question from the audience for you, Matt. What other vehicles aside from Seaport are used for small business?
Oh, yeah. So we use the beta.sam a lot. So Crane, real quick, I mean, you can see that the 541330, we obligated about $700 million in FY19. A lot of that was due to work contracting that we have supporting the Navsea headquarters. But Crane core work, we are primarily probably 2/3 supply. So we really use beta.sam for a lot of our core Crane type work.
Great. All right. Thank you, Matt. Thanks for sharing that information. So last but not least, we have Ms. Nicole Jackson-Hurd from the Norfolk Naval Shipyard. And her question is related to the long-range acquisition forecast, commonly known as the LRAF. The question for Nicole is, Navsea headquarters and many of the field activities post a quarterly long-range acquisition forecast, but there is not a LRAF, long-range acquisition forecast, for the shipyards. Why not? And are there other methods a small business can use to find out about upcoming procurements? Over to you, Nicole.
Thank you, Ann. Well, the premise of why we do not post an LRAF is because the nature of our business is unknown until the actual vessel gets to dock. So once that vessel is at our dry dock, tests are conducted, and the determination of the results of those testings of material that may be needed that may not be available within the shipyard's repository, then we know, then that's when those urgent requirements come out. And unfortunately, it's hard for us to actually forecast those types of requirements. So, and that's the crux of a lot of our SAP purchases. And then in addition to that, the confidentiality portion aspect of the work that's being done on the shipyard plays a very major part in why we do not have a long range forecast. And I actually spoke to my other colleagues at the other three, two out of the other three shipyards. And they pretty much echoed the same rationale of why we do not, as naval shipyards, post an LRAF. But with that said, beta.sam, as it's been mentioned in prior presentations, is the government point of entry where our SAP purchases and over SAP purchases are being publicized. And as you can see by the NAICS codes that are on the screen right now, this is actually reflectant of the 4 shipyards of our top buying trends. And so when it comes to the engineering services, we zero in on Seaport. And as Dave had mentioned, you would either need to be a contract holder to be able to sit in the prime role. However, you could, gain opportunities by being a subcontractor. I also reached out in saying that, and as I mentioned earlier, to the other shipyards, but Portsmouth Naval Shipyard actually provided a resource that they use as well. It's the Defense Logistics Agency's joint certification program, which certifies and reviews the DD 2345, the military critical technical agreements. And when you go through that site, it allows for access to DoD and the Department of National Defense, DND, unclassified export control technical data and critical technology. So once you're in that system, that allows you to be able to bid on DoD solicitations and execute contracts that involve access to export control technical data. And I would just suggest that for further information to reach out to Gisela from Portsmouth Naval Shipyard for further details in respects to that program. And then finally, reaching out to your small business professional for the respective site that you're interested in doing business with, I feel is a valuable resource, because that is the time where you can get that information of upcoming requirements, because we pride ourselves in trying to be interactive in the pre-solicitation phase of the requirement. It's important for us to actually help shape the acquisition strategy. So that is why, you know, it's great to call us, because we go to milestone meetings. We know what's coming, the up and coming hot requirements. And with that said, Anne, can we just go to the next slide?
Yes.
So since I had this opportunity to know that industry is out there, I wanted to just plug a couple of upcoming requirements that we have at Norfolk Naval Shipyard. We're looking for gate screeners. That's specifically for someone to take temperatures for the employees coming on base. Submarine preservation, we're looking for interested parties, teaming opportunities, hopefully to gain more competition with that requirement. Fire watch, tank watch, it has been taking a while for it to get on the street, but we are there. We should be seeing a solicitation within the next 30 days. And the whole mechanical and electrical equipment requirement, we had previously was awarded, was actually administered through MARMAC, is now under Norfolk Naval Shipyard. So we're looking for as much competition as possible. And just like Matt has mentioned about the source of sought and RFI process, it's very important for you all to actually, you know, respond and engage in the process, because the requirements that were traditionally small business set-asides, that could shape if we're going full and open. And I really would love for my small businesses to come out and say, hey, we're interested, or pair with another small business, because these are pretty nice size requirements. And I would love to see it as a small business set aside. So thank you, Anne, for your time, and back to you.
Okay, thanks, Nicole. And thanks for sharing those upcoming opportunities. I mean, it's very seldom that small businesses have an opportunity to see something that's coming up that could be geared to them. And we go back to responding to the sources sought notices and the request for information. So thanks again for sharing that. So before I open the floor to questions, I wanted to thank everyone for participating in today's webinar. And I also want to remind everyone to please take a moment to visit the Navsea website to learn more about Navsea and how you can help support the warfighter and help us meet mission. So I will go to some of the questions that we have that have come in. The first question is, in this pandemic state, how is Navsea supporting small business with awards? Did it slow down? Is everyone working at home or limited office time? So I'll take that question. Actually, Navsea has accelerated their procurement timelines. We've done more obligations in this third quarter than we did last year at the same time. Even though we are max teleworking and working from home, we have dedicated professionals who are making sure that contracts get awarded and business goes on as usual, because in our line of business, we cannot sit back. Even though we have a COVID-19 going on, we still have to meet our mission and support our warfighter. So it's been no change of business, and we're still open for business. So thank you for that question. The next question, I'll turn this one over to you, Dan, or anyone in the field who might want to answer this as well. Is Nafc seeking any vendors with COVID-19 PPE capabilities?
Thanks, ma'am. I haven't seen requirements for the PPE like masks and gloves directly from Navsea. We have had a couple requirements for prototyping and experimenting with UV disinfectant and contact tracing bands that have come out of headquarters where we have a special COVID contracting cell. I think 1 or 2 of those have gone on beta.sam, but most of them have gone straight out under justification and approvals due to the urgency to complete those requirements and get those out aboard the ship. If you have equipment that's falling in that lane, please email us directly and we can pass that on to that contracting. So I think actually up on the screen right now, you see kind of other COVID related requirements, such as those gate screeners at Newport News or at Norfolk, and then also at, I think at Bremerton, Puget Sound. Both those opportunities were posted to beta.sam, and I'm not sure if they're currently open, but you can find more information. I would look on beta.sam for those. And if you have more niche capabilities, so please email us those capabilities.
Okay, thanks, Steve.
And this is Arvis, I apologize. What I would like to add is across Department of Defense, if you're interested in selling PPE, FedMall is a resource. The Defense Logistics Agency is leading that effort for PPE across the Department of Defense.
And if I can piggyback on that, if you are a small business that needs PPE doing work with the DoD, you can procure that PPE through FedMall, which is not typically an area where a small business would be able to buy stuff. It would be where the government is buying stuff. But in order to support DoD operations through the COVID response, small businesses are able to procure PPE through FedMall.
Great. Okay. Thanks, Arvis and Dan. Up on the screen now and in your slide deck, you'll have a listing of all of the small business deputies across our 21 field activities. So please reach out to them if you have questions moving forward. So let's go to another question for NSWC. So what forecast does NSWC use? And I'm gonna, I guess maybe Matt can answer that.
Yeah, I'm assuming they're talking about the long range acquisition forecast. Yeah, so you know, I'll speak for Crane. So, you know, we update our long range acquisition forecast at least twice a year. We try to do it more often, but at least twice a year. So really the place I send everyone, it's funny, I've been sending these out like crazy, it seems like recently, is just go to the Department of Navy Office of Small Business website, and you can see, you know, click on the drop down across the top and you can find the LRAF, and then you'll see separate LRAFs for headquarters, and then you'll see the LRAFs for the field activities. And that should give you an idea of what's upcoming. Now, it's not, you know, it doesn't contain everything that we have. It doesn't have the SAP buys, but it's, I believe it, what is it, $5 million and above, I think, are the acquisitions that it contains. So that's a great place to start your search to see what Navsea's buying.
Okay,
Yeah,
thanks, Matt.
piggyback on that if I can, Ann.
Yes, please go ahead.
So at Newark Keyport, we also have the LRAF, and I, like Matt, I also point that out. In fact, I have the LRAF link in my signature block. But also, I have a seaport forecast that I send out to small businesses, and also hand out at some of my events that I have a booth at. And on the seaport forecast, I list all of our seaport actions, even if it's just awarded and it's 5 years out. That way, if you're not on the Seaport MAC vehicle, you could start planning for the future and you know, potentially be a player in one of those contract actions later on. So, and that's posted on the Newark Keyport website. So anyway, thanks.
Great, thanks, Dan.
And
Yes,
just to add to that, I know this is a Navsea centered webinar, but all of the long-range acquisition forecasts across the 10 major buying commands can be found through the Don OSBP website under doing business with the Don. There's a link there for long-range acquisition forecast, and then you can click on each individual command and see those links to the LRAFs there. Thanks, Ann.
Okay, great. Thanks, Avis. So Matt, this is another question that's directed to Crane. It seems like it's almost impossible to compete at Crane without an office location in front of the gate. Is that true?
That is not true.
I thought not.
Yeah. Now, some of our requirements have mileage, like you need to be within a 50-mile radius. There is a reason for that. But if you're a contractor who is outside the Crane area, you know, you are more than welcome, and we are more than grateful to have you. If you are not, you know, in and around Crane, so that is not necessarily true.
Great. I thought not. We are looking for all small businesses. And when we see language that tends to be too restrictive as far as how close the contractor has to be to the actual work site, you know, that's one of the things as small business professionals that we do is try to make sure that the language is not too restrictive so that small businesses can participate in our acquisitions. So the next question is, does the Navsea Warfare Centers use OTAs? And how do we get information on what is being procured using that vehicle? Anyone want to take that as far as OTAs, or is this something we'll have to?
Dan, I'll jump in. This is Matt again. Yes, Crane, we have an OTA. It's called the SMARTS OTA, or S2 MARTS. Our consortium manager is NSTXL. And if you want to see what we're buying on the OTA, you can go to the SMARTS website. And the nice thing about the SMARTS website is it will show you, you know, what's currently out for RFS, request for solution, and it will show you upcoming upcoming opportunities under the OTA. The website also contains kind of the technical areas that the particular OTA covers. So if you're interested in the SMARTS OTA, which covers our strategic missions and our electronic warfare departments at Crane, you can go to the SMARTS website, or you can go to NSTXL's website to see what we're procuring on Crane's SMART OTA.
And at Newark Keyport, we don't have our own OTA. We're currently using Newark Newport's OTA, and we do have one OTA opportunity right now for our range of the future that you can, if you want more information on that, you can contact me and offline, and I'll point you in the right direction.
Great, thank you. Okay, the next question is for Nicole. Could Ms. Jackson-Hurd please give the website and information again about getting registered with the DLA about export control data?
Okay, so the website, if you Google the Defense Logistics Agency, JCP, the website should come up for you to register for that actual site. I'm actually new to that site, as I've never heard of it until a couple of days ago, actually speaking with Portsmouth Naval. But what I can do is, if you reach out to my email address, I'll be glad to provide you with the link that I was forwarded as well.
Great, thank you, Nicole.
You're welcome.
So this question is about the long-range acquisition forecast. The information listed on the LRAF is very limited. How do small businesses reach out in order to gather other pertinent information about the bids? Anyone want to take that?
Well, you can always get in touch with your small business professional, and we'll do our best to try to answer any questions that you have. when in regards to those opportunities. A lot of those opportunities are also still in the planning stages as far as like acquisition strategy. Some of them are already reoccurring programs, but some of them are new requirements. And so there's some things that we're limited in saying, talking about, but you know, of course, if you get in touch with us, we'll do our best to try to answer whatever questions you have.
Okay, great. All right, next up is a question, again, about COVID-19 needs. How can we support your efforts in Okinawa and other locations where support may be needed for COVID-19 needs? I'm not sure if we have anyone who could answer that question off the top. I think that's something we'll have to take back and get back to you about. Okay, this question is about our seaport contracts. How often are MAC contracts reviewed for the necessity of rolling admissions?
I'm sorry.
For rolling admissions, and I don't know if I really understand the question so much as how often are they reviewed. Rolling admissions comes about every 2 years, where we'll open it up to allow new businesses to take part in that MAC. And as far as being reviewed, if it's the question is in referencing the size status of a small business, that's if a company becomes large, while they're in a contract, the next time a rolling admission comes around, their size status will change, and they won't be able to participate as a small business in a follow-on type of contract. So I'm not sure where that question was going, and hopefully that answered.
Okay, I think so. Thank you, Dave. So the next question is, what is the Navsea average time from RFP submittal to award? I would say that could vary.
It depends.
It depends. That's the, yeah.
Yes. Yes, it depends on the type of procurement, whether or not it's full and open or sole source. It's a lot of different things that could affect the award time. So I can't really provide an average time for that, unfortunately.
And just to add on to that too, is this to be mindful that in those steps, once that RFP is sent in, there could be a source selection process going on, and then the determination of either going into discussions can play into a role, which will again prolong going back to those, I don't want to say bidders, but those, the proposals that are within the competitive range may need to go into discussion. So it just takes time. And then again, and within the Navsea structure, you have your contract review boards, and then you have to get approvals and signatures. And so it depends on the complexity of the requirement.
Right.
And this is Arvis. What I will add to that is the Deputy Assistant Secretary of Navy for Procurement is looking at what we call that PULT timeline, and they are looking at it from a holistic perspective of how can we improve that. So we do recognize that timeline for industry and specifically small businesses can be a long time when they're looking at putting a proposal together, keeping individuals as key personnel on staff in anticipation of an award. So the Department of Navy leadership is concerned about that, and we're looking internally at things that can be done to help decrease what they call that PULT timeline. Thank you.
Right, thank you, Arvis. So another question I have is, and this is for all of the panelists, does Nafc have any IT projects for small businesses to participate in?
Yes. We have actually at Keyport we have what we call our technology support service contract. It is a Seaport contract, and it encompasses our corporate IT, so that's network server support, help desk support, and also software support for the base. And then we also have, I failed to mention this, we have a Echelon 5 command in Mechanicsburg, Pennsylvania. They also have 2 IT contracts under Seaport. So for Newark Keyport and NSLC Mechanicsburg, the answer is yes. And then we also have the hardware buys, and we do a lot of our hardware buys on the NASA Soup contract. So.
Okay, so I would tell the individual, if he's interested to learn more, he can reach out to you, Dave Waltz. Your information, contact information is in the slide deck.
Absolutely.
Okay, great.
And I'm sorry, I keep jumping in. I'll also add that on our Department of Navy Small Business Programs website, we have a feature called Search What the Don Buys. And this is a data download from FPDS. So it gives the industry the opportunity to look at what we filter. I don't know if everybody's looked at FPDS data, but it makes my head hurt. It's so much there. But it's a data pool that is filtered and sorted for Department of Navy and Marine Corps awarded contracts. If you know your NAICS code or your product service code, you can filter and you can see across the department what contracts have been awarded under that NAICS or that product service code. And then I encourage you to go back to the website, look for the small business professional that's at that command and reach out to them for more information on specific IT contracts or whatever your NAICS or PSC code is. Thank you.
Thanks, Arviz.
Hey, Ann, I'd also like to add, I was talking about those IT contracts, that technology support service contract, SDVOSB set aside. One of the IT contracts at Mechanicsburg, women-owned small business set aside. And the other one is a small business set aside, but we'll be looking at an acquisition strategy with a sources sought, what Matt talked about earlier. So that may be going to a socioeconomic set aside as well. So I want to pass that on.
Oh, great. Great information to share with our small business partners. Okay. So this is a general question to anyone who wants to jump in. Which group procures work for media, marketing, and communications at your command?
So at Keyport, we have a graphics contract, and it's under our command and corporate operations department. They're the ones who are requesting those requirements. And on that, it does have video, photography, website design. All of the media at Keyport is done on our graphics contract, which is a Seaport contract. And so it has historically gone to small businesses, but it hasn't been a small business set aside because it has been during our sources SOTs, another plug for sources SOTs, we're not getting 2 or more small businesses. So be looking out for that. And if you're interested, come talk to me.
Mm-hmm. Great. Anyone else wanted to weigh in on that?
Yeah, and we procure most of our stuff via Seaport, such as that. We call ours the BOSS, the Base Operations Support Service Contract, which is a small business set aside. So that one is probably, should be shortly coming up for the early planning stages. So if you're a small business interested in that kind of work, be watching Seaport because it should be hitting soon.
Okay, great. Would anyone else like to weigh in before we go to the next question?
I'll just say we have an 8A requirement now actually for marketing services as we ramp up our hiring drives for the shipyard. So we created an 8A requirement. I think it's at the point of being awarded, but yeah, we actually went through the GSA to actually procure that service.
Great, thank you. Seems like there's a lot of opportunities out there for that. Okay, so the next question comes from a service-disabled veteran-owned small business who is the manufacturer of cables and wire harnesses. Typically not the end product, but usually a component of some larger system. The question is, how do I get our name out there to the appropriate LSIs or government engineers who are interested in what we do?
So, Matt, do you want to go first?
No, I was just going to say we buy a lot of cables direct. We will advertise those on Beta SAM. So I would encourage you to, and typically we try to set those aside for small business. Now, you know, we are in the process of working on what we would call a cable MAC contract, a multiple award contract, which would be a small business set aside. So again, a couple of things. I mean, I would, one, if you see a requirement that your company has the capability of performing on, I would, you know, definitely submit an offer. Number two, if there's a synopsis that's issued, which typically there's going to be if you know, if something's posted on Beta SAM, there's always a point of contact down at the bottom. And I always encourage companies, you know, hey, look at the synopsis, go down to the bottom of the page on Beta SAM and look at that point of contact and maybe reach out to them, along with reaching out to the local small business professional to say, hey, I'm interested in this buy. I'm new to your market. This is what I do. Here's a capability statement. And then maybe we can try to work on connecting you internally with you know, engineers or requirements personnel. But if cabling is what you do, that's something that we buy a lot of directly rather than a component to a larger you know, overall system or whatnot.
Yeah, and at Keyport, same thing. We buy a lot of cabling, and I agree with everything that Matt says. And one of the other things I want to say is, if you are interested in getting in with Navsea, send myself or any one of us one of your capability statements. And we have a small business search tool on our wiki site that is available for all of the small business professionals, all of the program managers, all of this contract specialists that they could use for their market research. One of the things that I do every Friday, I'll check beta.sam, and if there's a new requirement out there on beta.sam that would fit your capability or one of your NAICS codes, you're going to get an email from me saying, hey, this is out there. So if you're in our small business search tool and we have a requirement for cables, you'll get an email from me letting you know it's out there.
Great, thanks Matt and Dave. Okay, I think we have time for maybe 2 more questions. The next question is, are there opportunities for low-code, no-code platforms at Navsea in order to maximize the capabilities of cloud computing and machine learning? Anyone want to jump in on that?
And what we can do is take that down as an action and follow. And what we generally do is we post if there are questions and answers that we need to respond to, we'll post them on our website and then also reach back out to the individual. So we can take that down as an action and follow up later.
Right, all right, thank you.
And I'd also like to add, if there's if you have like a certain niche that you don't really see a lot in beta.sam or in any of the other contract advertising vehicles or whatever, we also have tech bridges that are located across the country, and we all the small business deputies are kind of tied in with the tech bridges in one way or another. But we could at least get you connected with the tech bridge director in our regions. So I'll throw that out there.
Okay, great, thanks. Okay, here's another question to all panelists. Does Navsea procure services from marine contractors? Delivery and support for logistics, marine transportation, or repair? If so, What group and individual would I need to contact? We are an 8A woman-owned small business hub zone, marine turnkey contractor in marine services, repairs, marine construction, dredging, coding, logistics, environment, and IT, specialized in maritime. Does Navsea use our services?
So what I would do is I would recommend that this individual researches and utilizes the website under the search what the Don buys. If you know what your NAICS code is or your product service code, you can look and see across the Department of Navy which activity is buying what it is that you're selling. And then I'll turn it back over to the group.
Okay, thanks, Arvis. Anyone else want to weigh in on that? I think that's our last question for today. If there are questions that we didn't get to, as Ms. Washington said, we will answer those questions for you and make sure we get a response back to you. And with that, I think I will turn it over to back to Ms. Washington to close us out.
Thank you so much, Ann and the team. It was great, number one, talking to you today, and thank you for joining the webinar. But I would also like to say thank you because it's nice to see everyone. And so while we've got you on the line, is there any information or that you can give the team here about an upcoming industry day, perhaps?
Yes, so we are planning for the first time to hold a virtual industry day, and it will be in October. It's going to be the first week of October. We're still in the early planning stages, but we're going to follow the same format that we do for when we have face-to-face industry days. One of the big aspects of industry days is the ability for small businesses to get time with our requirement holders. And we're going to try to keep that same concept, but doing it virtually by having matchmaking sessions set up throughout the day so small businesses can meet with the requirement holders and tell them a little bit more about themselves. Another thing that we're doing, since we're in Max Telework, we have been conducting capability briefings with small businesses via Microsoft Teams. That's actually been quite beneficial for us because a lot of times it's hard to get individuals onto the base for us to have a face-to-face meeting with them. Having the ability to do it virtually, we are able to meet with many more companies. And that's been a great benefit because once we talk to you and we hear about your capabilities, we know how to better align you with our requirement holders. And they are waiting and willing to talk to you as well because they are our small business advocates.
So will they reach out to you to get something set up, someone on your team? How would one of our listeners be able to reach out and get a capability?
Yes. On the contact information, they can contact either myself, Dan Duckwitz, or Kim Malone, and we will take it from there and set up a virtual meet and greet.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much, Ann, and everyone on the Navsea team for joining you. Great to see your smiling faces today. And thank you to all of our participants, our attendees that joined us. I think, Ann, this is record attendance, so you set the bar pretty high here.
Oh, great.
Yeah, thank you all, and I hope everyone stays safe and healthy during this COVID crisis. That's all we've got. And please join us, for Thursday with a webinar held by Mr. Carlton Hagan from Marine Corps INL. All right.